Hi, this is Oscar here, the Simple Surgeon, talking about EBM, which normally stands for Evidence-Based Medicine, but today's episode will be on other E's. Thank you for watching this, and in this short series of EBM, I will talk about other E's, so medicine based on other factors than evidence that is present in our everyday life. So the first and basic meaning is the evidence-based medicine, meaning that you have evidence, research evidence, you use your clinical judgment, you look at the patient and you are making conscientious decisions about the treatment. So this is evidence-based medicine based on the research, based on guidelines. You would think that maybe most of people are using evidence-based medicine as their primary tool for treatment. No, they aren't. In my experience, and this is my opinion, I see that most people are using other E, and it is an episode-based medicine. So episode-based medicine is medicine based on the presumption that what happened in the past will happen again. Most people, if you ask them why they have made certain decisions, will say, I had a patient once upon a time who did this and that. And if this episode has a strong emotional impact on the doctor, on the surgeon, especially if the patient dies, this will determine his treatment of that condition for life. Unless he is conscious enough about it and can stop it from happening. So an example would be if somebody punctures the sole of his foot with a dirty nail, can they get sepsis and die or lose their leg? Yes, they can. Does it happen often? No, it doesn't. Very rarely. But if a surgeon experiences a death of his patient due to puncture of the sole of his foot by a dirty nail, every other patient coming under his care with the same condition, so nail breaking through the sole of the foot, will get special treatment. There is no evidence to do that. Alarm bell should ring now. There is no evidence. That means there's no evidence that is wrong, but there's no evidence that this is the right way to do. This patient will receive special treatment. For example, an inpatient treatment. And I have come across examples like this. And if a patient with a head injury dies from intracranial hematoma, this doctor who attended him will apply special treatment for all the patients with head trauma from that point up until he dies, because there is a strong emotional impact in him and the alarm bells are ringing, and it is difficult to make any other, even evidence-based decision. The second type is actually my favorite type of EBM. Now, I think it is still more common than the evidence-based medicine, but is rarely said so, and it's experience-based medicine. Experience-based medicine. So a doctor or a nurse or a paramedic who is practicing for a number of years or decades will develop experience. Experience was very valued in all the decades of medicine and the centuries of medicine up until recently, because this is really something that you develop over the years. This is really something that works. It works for your patients. It works for you. The combination of a patient and a doctor and that approach works. This is science which is not proven by mathematics. And in my opinion, experience supersedes the evidence, because experience is science that is not proven yet. Let's say, I'm actually going to give that example a little bit later on about the experience and the next type of E, which is eminence-based medicine. Eminence-based medicine. Your eminence, you say to a cardinal in the church. So somebody you respect, your master, your teacher in the field of medicine or surgery, if he says so, this must be the truth. And we all are contaminated by various sayings of our teachers that are not necessarily the true. Now, most of them are, and some of them are not. For example, one of my teachers once said to me, and that was 20 odd years ago, Oscar, first the patient, then the papers. And whenever I have the choice that I have to fill some important paperwork in treatment of the patient, or attend to the patient himself, or somebody stops me from attending the patient because there's some paperwork to be done, I know what to do, because this is my eminence-based medicine, first the patient and then the papers. And despite having some difficulties and troubles and problems afterwards from not filling the paperwork, I always attend the patient first. So this is my positive eminence-based medicine. But one of my other teachers said once to me what he believed, and that was his eminence-based medicine. Oscar, once an ingrown toenail, always an ingrown toenail. He believed that. And what can I say? My experience is different. I should probably do the research on that, but my experience is different. As I told you in the previous series on ingrown toenails, 95% of my patients do not require surgery, and they are cured from ingrown toenail by the mechanical force applied in a specific way. Therefore, my experience supersedes this eminence-based medicine, but it wouldn't if I believed it without doubt. Because I doubted it, because I put that doubt in my head, it wasn't there from the beginning. It was my teacher. I was looking up to him, and I thought whatever he says, it must be true. But at some stage of my career, I doubted it. I tried another approach and it worked. And it is my experience now that I'm saying. So everything I say in those series, I say, this is what I think. I am a simple surgeon. So that's my episode. That can be eminence to somebody else. Hopefully it won't be. I hope that you will use your own judgment and your own thought. But eminence-based medicine can be both positive and negative if it is not true. And it usually stays for life. And the third, I was wondering before I started to record this video, which is the most dangerous type of practicing medicine, because every medic, nurse or paramedic is using every type that I mentioned here. Every type. Which one is the most dangerous? Episode-based medicine is not dangerous, it makes you cautious. As yet another of my teachers used to say, Oscar, paranoia is your friend. You cannot harm with that much, but you can save lives. Paranoia is your friend. But between the eminence-based medicine, which can be doubted, and economic-based medicine, we do whatever makes money. I am not sure which one is more dangerous. I don't know. I'll think about it and maybe I'll come with an answer to you. But there is a medicine, I've seen it in action, based on economics. How does that happen? Well, the financing of the medicine can be either private or public, and the public money is usually financed by the government or some other governmental body. And in that body there are non-medical people or medical people deciding how much they would pay for certain procedures. And some of them don't have a clue, and some of them don't bother to check what is the real cost of it, as at least this is the situation in Poland. And some of the procedures that are really dangerous and complicated and sophisticated are very poorly paid, and some simple procedures that are usually sometimes even the wave of a hand of a surgeon are very well paid. and there is a tendency of concentrating on that well-paid procedures. Now, we cannot change the office people, non-medical people, and governmental people doing crap like this. But what we can change is our approach to it. And the approach should be that the patient's well-being comes first. One of my colleagues once said, and I'm going to quote him here, "Look, until somebody pays me well more than enough to do otherwise, I will follow the patient well-being. I will do whatever best for my patient." And with that thought, I'm going to finish for today. Thank you very much for listening. Remember, these are my thoughts, my opinion. I am just a simple surgeon, nothing fancy. And in the next episode, I will talk about the situations where the evidence and the guidelines should be followed strictly, in my opinion. Thank you. Bye.